so here's some examples. So what I have here is I have a pot of water. It's a liquid. Then I have a pot of water as a gas. Well, then I boil it, and then the water is going to become a gas. So if I said water is a liquid, that would be a physical property. Because it's not doing anything, I'm talking about its state. So water as a liquid is a physical property. Water as a gas is a physical property. But if I say that the water is boiling, now I'm changing from one state to another state. So boiling water is a physical change. Okay? So let's keep those straight between the properties and the changes. All right, let's look at another one. So this one here, I have dry ice. So if you're not familiar with dry ice is just some solid CO2. It's really, really cold. And what happens is it does sublimation. So it goes directly from a solid to a gas. So you can kind of see it comes off of here. This is what's kind of used in movies to make fog or make like a witch's brew kind of effect. Okay? So if I said CO2 solid, so CO2 is a solid, then that would be a physical property. If I said CO2 is a gas, that would be a physical property. But if I said the CO2 is subliming or is changing to a gas, then that would be a physical change because it's still CO2 here, it's still CO2. It doesn't change what it is, so it's not chemical, but it's an action. It's changing from one state to the other. So it's a change, but it's physical. All right, let's look at another one. So this one is one that kind of tricks people up. So here I've got some sugar, and I'm taking my sugar here and I'm dumping it into some water. So originally my sugar is just some solid, and then when I dump it in, it's called aqueous. Aqueous just means that it's dissolved in water. So it's sugar, and you still have sugar, but now it's dissolved within my water molecules, okay? So if I said solid sugar in a spoon, that would be a physical property. If I said sugar in an aqueous state, that would be a physical property. If I said that I dissolved sugar in water, so dissolving the sugar in the water is a change, but if you notice, the sugar doesn't change its actual composition. It's a sugar molecule here, it's a sugar molecule here. So whenever I dissolve something, I'm not changing its actual composition. So that's why this is a physical change and not a chemical change. All right, let's look at another one. All right, so here I've got a little nail. The nail is made out of iron. So I have an iron nail, and then I let the nail just kind of sit out in the air, and it's gonna start to rust. That rust is called iron oxide, right? So what happens is if I say I have an iron nail, so if I just say I have an iron nail, well that's just talking about the nail and what its property is. If it's a solid, so that would be like a physical property, okay? But if I said that the iron nail rusted, so if I said the iron nail rusted, so it's going from iron to iron 3 oxide. It's actually changing its composition. So if I said the iron nail rusted, it's doing something, so it's a change, and it's going from one composition to another composition, which makes it a chemical change, okay? Because it's not going to be the same thing at the end. All right, last one. Let's look at this one. So here I have some propane, okay? So this is my propane right here. This is the propane molecule, and I'm heating it up. I'm lighting it up. So I'm going to take the propane, it's a gas, and I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to add some heat. I'm going to light a match so that now my propane gas is on fire. Okay? What happens when you burn your propane gas, it's going to go from propane with adding some oxygen to going to CO2 and to water. This is called combustion. We're going to talk about different types of reactions, and a combustion reaction is a very common one. But if I'm burning something, it's going to change. So I say I've got propane gas. Propane gas is just a physical property. If I said I have CO2 and water molecules in a gas state, physical property. But if I say that I took my propane and I burned my propane, or I burned propane, or my propane is burning, either one of those, that would be a change because I'm doing something to the propane. It's burning, or I already burned it. But in the combustion sense, what I start with, when I burn it, it's going to change into something different. The composition changes. So if the composition changes, it is a chemical change. All right? So those are all the examples of the difference between a physical and chemical property and a physical and chemical change. All right? So now let's switch gears a little bit, and now let's start talking about chemical reactions.